Hi, this is Naroki5. I am going to be doing this until I die or I find something better to do. So please help me achieve this personal and, I think, noble objective by contributing to my Patreon or Subscribe Star. Link is down below. Every little bit helps. Thank you very much.
Hello, everybody. Well, this is Naroki5. This is the MGTOW. This is a MGTOW Master Series special, and probably one that's been a long time coming. With me today is Igor MGTOW. And to give you an idea, I mean, the guy we're personally talking about here is Mike Falleck and his crew at #.cult. They've walked away from that project. I have some speculative reasons why, based upon other active anti-MGTOWs over the past few years. But we will get into the specifics about that. With me today, though, is to give you an idea, though, how courageous, and I have ditto marks up when I say that, Mike Falleck was. You were, what, 13, 14 at the time when this happened?
I started the MGTOW channel at age 12, and I started making MGTOW videos around late 2018. And my first interaction with #cult is seeing one of their dreadful videos around probably late 2020.
So you're like 15, 16 now.
I'm 16.
Okay. Yeah. Before we actually get into Mike Falleck, what is the backstory? What would make a guy at the age of a person at the age of 12 figure this out like really early on? Like, what was going on in your life?
I think I saw some Sandman videos and also some other videos, especially by the guy named Angry MGTOW, whom, for good reason, we no longer associate with, by we I mean the entire MGTOW community. And I saw other MGTOW videos and decided that I'd rather be a MGTOW than go through the entire process of hell known as relationships and marriage.
So there wasn't anything in your personal life that was causing this impetus? You don't have to go into details, obviously.
I got most of my knowledge about females and relationships and marriage from MGTOWs, and I used the information at hand to make decisions, one of which was to go MGTOW.
Okay. All right, that's good enough for me. Well, I'm not going to get into my personal story. The person we are talking about tonight is again Mike Falleck and #.cult. Now, the job that I work allows me to listen to podcasts and whatever, and every once in a while, I'm personally thinking that iTunes and Spotify, to a certain degree, are kind of censoring this content, or there just simply hasn't been a guy who has consistently posted up MGTOW content on Spotify, BitChute, or SoundCloud, or any of those sites. The only guy I've met who's done that is Ken Del Rican, and his stuff is a little, well, it's not to my liking, so I don't generally listen to his stuff. But he's the only guy on Spotify that I've listened to who I've seen who's consistently posted up. I mean, Sandman stuff is up there, but I mean, you can pretty much get Sandman stuff anywhere. I came around MGTOW probably just a little bit before Sandman made his first video. I can actually remember Sandman making his first video, but we're taking a trip down memory lane. Now, back when I first came in, there were probably fewer than, I'm guessing, if there were 5,000 to 8,000 MGTOW on the entire planet at the time. I would have been surprised. To give you an idea of the exponential and explosive growth that MGTOW has had. It started out with basically a handful of guys meeting in a bar in Asheville, North Carolina in 2006. And from that handful of guys, you now have a philosophy that is worldwide. I don't know the exact numbers in Britain. I do know that the numbers in North America, we are probably going to, there's probably about, we're going to surpass 1% of the male population in North America that's going to have a passing familiarity with MGTOW at some point next year, which is astounding considering where it started.
I have something to add.
Okay.
I remember seeing some kind of blog post or something about MGTOW with the date around February 2001. I'm going to put it in the link.
Oh, you mean the
manifesto thing.
The MGTOW manifesto? Yeah. That site's been that particular post has been edited a little bit because, to my knowledge, the MGTOW symbol wasn't even created until 2012. There used to be a forum called the Nice Guys Forum, and a lot of the original MGTOW guys were on that. And there's actually a thread on that now. There was a thread on that defunct forum that talked about the origins of MGTOW. Yeah, the manifesto existed. I don't know if it was called the MGTOW Manifesto at that point because it wasn't named MGTOW at that point. It was called something else. I think it was called Going Galt. But anyway, we're not going to get too much into the history here. Bottom line is that, I mean, the growth has been absolutely phenomenal. Now, in the last couple of years, you've started getting anti-MGTOW guys coming on. There was one guy called MGTOW Exposed who unfortunately died before I had a chance to, and his videos have been removed, who unfortunately died back in 2020 before I had the chance to deal with him. There was Bulldog, at least Bulldog Mindset had some legit, for 1 to 10 million worldwide for sure. Definitely worldwide. If you type in a country and MGTOW after it or red pill after it, basically pick any country in the world, you will find MGTOW or red pill links for it. And by the way, when I say that, I also say that MGTOW and red pill are not necessarily synonymous, but they're basically associated with each other via the manosphere. Now, the whole situation here is that we've had a bunch of anti-MGTOW come in over the past few years. The pattern of all of them, is pretty much the same. They cherry pick certain individuals and they will try to present the information about MGTOW as a projection, as a few disruptive individuals, like say Angry MGTOW, for instance, as an example of everybody in MGTOW, or because I've done a Wikipedia, I've done a response to what you see on Wikipedia, or on Wikipedia, they just simply don't allow MGTOW content producers to post up there. And I'm just going to point.
Sorry for interrupting. I remember trying to edit the Wikipedia article on MGTOW and my edits being reversed.
Oh, yeah. The guy who runs the Wikipedia site has been forced to testify in Congress, and he has been exposed as basically lunatic left, right? Like he's like Wikipedia is a good source of information for some things, but it's not for others. The whole thing is that, I mean, this particular year, for instance, the head of the opposition in the House of Parliament in Canada either had a guy on his team who was MGTOW or was somebody that was very familiar with MGTOW, because Pierre Poliver's YouTube content actually had the MGTOW hashtag on it. When this got exposed, yes, that's exactly who it was. Yeah. When it got exposed, this is I find this particularly interesting. Justin Trudeau and Chrystia Freeland did everything in their power to actually avoid saying the word MGTOW. It's almost like the words Voldemort now.
That. I noticed that in their speech.
Yeah, I noticed that
they called us vile misogynists or something.
Yeah, he said everything. He said everything, but the actual term itself. And I suspect you're going to be seeing a lot of that over the next few years, because here's the situation. I mean, I have to imagine the situation is pretty similar over in Britain based upon what I've been seeing. If they say the word and people go looking, they will hit the official narrative, like the one on Wikipedia, for instance, or the fact that Google tries to bury. Urban Dictionary also tried to bury the actual meaning of MGTOW as well. They will look, but if they actually pierce past the veil, which a lot of people are starting to do now, because the more I talk to people, I'm starting to realize that the mainstream media has, at least in North America, I don't know what it's like in Britain, but the mainstream media here has been on the wrong side of literally every single issue in the past couple of years, and their credibility is just shot.
To add to this point of anti-MGTOW platforms or SJW leftist platforms in general trying to bury MGTOW, I remember seeing with my own eyes YouTube, when you search up MGTOW, they tried to put up POA content and bulldog mindset at the very top. But for some reason in 2022, when you search MGTOW on YouTube, actually MGTOW content gets to the top.
Yeah, well, I suspect a lot of that may have to do with what is going on. It's like, I mean, Elon Musk's, and we did a show on Elon Musk has been dominating the Red Pill Nation Hangout for the last couple of months now. Well, I don't think Elon Musk is a free speech absolutist, and I think some of what he's doing is to basically cover his ass to prevent him from getting sued. He's leveled the playing field on Twitter. And as a result, the other platforms, especially if Elon Musk turns a profit really quickly, the other platforms are going to basically have to, because their whole claim on this is that this content doesn't make any money. And if Elon Musk keeps the platform on Twitter the way it currently stands, and these individuals, like, and again, Andrew Tate's not a MGTOW, but if Andrew Tate, Jordan Peterson, those guys, if those guys really start taking off in popularity, that's going to say a lot about the manosphere in general. But anyway.
Can I mention something?
Yeah, go ahead.
I was actually really happy that Elon Musk bought Twitter, because from the MGTOW perspective, from my perspective, all I saw was major platforms trying to shut us down, trying to bury us, and Elon Musk and his proposals were actually going to give MGTOW a chance to spread, an equal playing field.
Yeah, exactly. He's created a level playing field. But there's a consistent, and I mean, even Bulldog Mindset. Well, I mean, I will credit Bulldog Mindset. He did actually have some legit criticisms about MGTOW, although he had denied it. A lot of this, and this is something that I see a lot of from the PUA community, is they view MGTOW as competition for their dollars. But we're kind of wandering off the point here. The person we're specific. What generally happens is, though, is that these anti-MGTOW, and there was one really bad one on Facebook for a while, otherwise known as Stephen Martino, who, eventually people got smart to him and basically started blocking him on all the platforms and stopped responding to him because he had no intention of having an honest discussion. What generally happens with anti-MGTOW is they come in and one of two things happens, and Mike Falleck falls into the latter category on this. They come in, they make their presence really loud and public, and what happens is that the MGTOW community in general will come out and start hitting back. And of course, anybody that's familiar with the MGTOW community knows that it isn't about getting laid. There are incels that will, if they're willing to put the work in, that will eventually maybe drift over to MGTOW, but it's not just about getting laid. Like, you're not going to be, for instance, if you're facing false accusations or parental alienation or false rape accusations or sexual harassment, that's something you're not going to be able to lift in style and alpha your fucking way out of that stuff. Like, you're just not.
Yeah, that's one thing I really hate about pickup artists and why I view them as cancerous. They would like you to think that your life should be spent on playing the quote-unquote game. I completely oppose the notion that playing the quote-unquote game, as pickup artists refer to it, is important and great.
Yeah. So there's two basic tacks that PUAs will take. They will either vociferously and viciously attack MGTOW, which more or less causes them to get, which is what happened with Bulldog Mindset. I mean, he was just getting deluged and he just basically threw up his hands and walked away from it. Or what recently happened with a individual, and I'm pretty sure you saw this, Mooncat, because she's one of your country, she's from where you are. Mooncat, I debunked the entire manosphere. Can you hear me?
Oh, the audio. Yes, I can hear you, but for like a few seconds it was cut off.
Okay, so yeah, I was talking about Mooncat and her video that she made. I debunked the entire manosphere and I thought Rollo Tomasi did a pretty good job of tearing her down. But absolute confident. It looked really impressive when we looked at it on the surface, but once you started cutting away at it, it was just it had no more substance to it than a wall of smoke. They will, and this is the category that Mike Falleck will fall into. In fact, Falleck is an extreme example, and hashtag.cult is an extreme example of this. They will just make this content, and they will just simply never, or they will block, but they will never respond to their critics. There's another woman, I believe, in Britain, I think what's her name, Kathy Bates, who rallies against MGTOW and the manosphere all the time. You seem to be having a really big problem with anti-MGTOW and anti-manosphere content in Britain for whatever reason. That's been noted, by the way. The whole situation with Mike Falleck, I could say, I was out on the job. I decided to listen to it, and I saw this, and it was sort of like, okay, I'm a guy who's looking for something to respond to or something to do content on. So I listened to the first 2 or 3 episodes of this, and within about a minute, Mike Falleck immediately starts in with the insults. And the other part is that throughout the video, he was doing an interview with a guy who I've never heard of, and I never listened to the interview with Peter Nolan, although It should be curiously noted that the Peter Nolan interview.
I would like
Go
to
ahead.
mention something about it.
Yeah.
In a few seconds in that Peter Nolan video in the beginning, they actually mentioned me indirectly. They did everything to not say my name, but they said my content was quote-unquote disturbing.
Oh, I've listened to your content. Your content isn't disturbing. Angry MGTOW's
According to
content.
normal definitions.
Yeah.
According to normal definitions, it isn't disturbing, but Mike Falleck is not using normal definitions.
Oh, he's not using normal definitions at all. Angry MGTOW had disturbing content. I've seen a few other people who've come on. There was a guy named Caucasian MGTOW who tried to play up the race angle here about 1.5 years ago.
Wait, I think I remember him. Was he the guy that says that black people cannot be MGTOW? Because if he is, I was making content against that guy still on YouTube back when I was still making YouTube content. I only make MGTOW.tv content and Odyssey.com content now.
Yeah, I'm thinking that was that guy, which is ridiculous because, I mean, first of all, Barbarossa, otherwise known as Barbarossa, was an absolute pioneer in doing MGTOW content on YouTube. Paul Proteus is one of my personal favorites. I think Stardust, otherwise known as Thinking Ape, is also a black guy. Although you can't really tell because he doesn't really get into his personal history very much. But yeah, and Coach Greg Adams, before he decided that he wasn't going to be MGTOW anymore, pretty obvious what he is.
Wait, is he a pickup artist or something?
Coach Greg Adams did a lot of really pro MGTOW content when he first came out, and this is something that I've noticed with a few guys. Trying to remember, Better Bachelor was, I think the guy with a voice for print and a face for radio. I can't remember what his name is.
That's Better Bachelor.
Yeah, Better Bachelor.
He also calls himself Joker in the video.
Yeah. He also did a lot of MGTOW content at first, and then he just suddenly one day decided, oh no, I'm not a MGTOW. It's sort of like the same thing. Greg Adams did a lot of really hardcore MGTOW content at first, and then suddenly decided that he wasn't MGTOW anymore once he got a brand going. The issue with Mike Falleck, and I mean, I went through that first one and I did the response to him. And then, of course, I wanted to post up a response, and on his YouTube content and even on Morning Pile, not only could you not comment on any of his videos, you couldn't send him a message on any of his videos. You couldn't respond anywhere where he posted up. He didn't allow content. The only way you could act.
I remember he shut down all the comments after noticing that not a lot of people like him.
So my first video on him, I pointed this fact out. I also pointed out the fact that he was getting massively downvoted within. So, and I know he saw it because within 48 hours of that video coming out, you couldn't vote on his content either. And what word best describes Mike Falleck? I think
a grifter.
A grifter, but a dishonest liar is probably the best way to describe him. The way he tried to twist issues around and try to make something that wasn't there. I mean, he was one of the big things, and this, I find this very ironic because when you look at the stuff on the alt-right, the alt-right claims that we're a Jewish conspiracy, and it's sort of like in my argument with the alt-right is that, well, if it's a Jewish conspiracy, then where are the fucking Jews involved at the top? Because I can tell you there aren't any. point. His claim, and this was his really big claim because he is Jewish himself, is that MGTOW is an alt-right movement. And it's like, well, first of all, MGTOW is not a movement. A movement is a group of individuals coming together and uniting for a common goal. Now, when you look at MGTOW from 1,000 feet up, you do see a lot of guys, men, more or less heading in the same direction. So it looks like it's a movement, but if you actually go get, and this is something that virtually all anti-MGTOW have refused to do. They don't go down and they don't talk to the individual involved in, or they will pick one person. Like, Mike Falleck did an interview with this one guy. I'm amazed at the number of episodes he got out of that one.
Talks? Is it interview code Tom Talks or something like that?
Yeah, I think
I'll try
so.
to look it up.
Yeah, and
I'll cross-reference this.
And he
cult. Hold on. There we go. There's this episode called MGTOW Interview, codename Tom Talks, and my friend is brainwashed by a sexist cult.
That's the one. That's the guy. Yeah. The whole, I'm amazed how much content he was able to get out of that one particular point. But if you look at, and this is something that needs to be emphasized here, if you actually talk to every individual MGTOW about what their objective is, yeah, you'll see that they are all, a lot of them are headed for the same objective. But you'll see there's a lot of MGTOW that aren't necessarily headed for that same objective. So, it looks like a cult, but when you actually start to talk to the individuals involved, you find out that what the fundamental, and this is why it's called men going their own way, you find that each individual male is basically going on their own path, and that path just happens to be similar to a lot of the MGTOW around them. Right? It doesn't necessarily mean that that's a cult. And also, and this is something that Mike Falleck, I don't think, ever addressed. If this is a cult, then where's the cult
leader?
Yeah, where is the leader? Where is the
That's the question I want to ask him.
Yeah, who's the leader? Who is the person calling the shots? Because I can tell you, it ain't Sandman. It ain't me. It ain't Terrence Pop. It's not Sydney MGTOW. It's definitely not. It's not Sandman. It wouldn't be Paul Proteus because he's dead. It's not Spetsnaz. Like, there's no.
It's
like,
not.
There's,
me.
It's not
me
you.
Because even though I have subscribers, I still don't. I don't have any intentions of creating a cult, and I would certainly not do that. And we are all free thinking and we have our own ideas.
Yeah, exactly. So, who is the leader? And he never addressed that. He had on people like Rick Ross and whatever. And he tried to tie all this in, but it's sort of like ultimately, like, who's the leader? And as for the brainwash, and this is the other part of it on it, the brainwashing aspect. To assume that men are so stupid that watching a Sandman video is going to somehow indoctrinate you, or that, like, for instance, I'm having to imagine, because you're one of the rare guys that probably arrived there on his own and just figured it out without having to necessarily go through trauma to get to MGTOW. Like, I had to go through trauma of some type, relationship trauma, to get to MGTOW. Most guys arrive at MGTOW via trauma, and this is I've seen this come up before. Oh, well, these guys are hurt and they're angry and they're tired, and they hear the reassuring message of MGTOW, and it tells them what they want to hear.
I'd like to add a point. For this reason about how I became MGTOW and how others became MGTOW, I oppose any notion that males must first have some kind of relationship experience before going to MGTOW, or to simply have a relationship so they don't regret missing out. If you can go MGTOW directly, go MGTOW directly in as fast as and as efficient process as possible.
Yeah, to assume that it requires trauma of some type to get to MGTOW is a misnomer. That, first of all, that just assumes that men are too stupid to figure it out for themselves. Besides, the evidence is out there for this. I mean, there's the whole men's rights movement and all the issues involved in that. There is also, and I don't hear this so much in the PUA community, but the PUA community does touch on it every once in a while. PUA talks about female nature and what it's like. And when they get in, and they are, some of them are really critical of negative aspects of female nature, and they point this stuff out. And to assume that men are so stupid that they require trauma to get to it. Yeah, okay, I did. That doesn't necessarily mean that everybody else in the community did. In fact, that's not even, I wouldn't even put that in as one of the 4 pillars. But yeah, there's.
Can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
I also remember, to a point, successfully shutting down most arguments about saying how I'm too young to be MGTOW and etc. Effectively abolishing any age limit if there was any to begin with.
Oh no, you've been mentioned in a few places about the fact that, I mean, it is humanly possible for boys to figure this out at a very early age. And this is something that I'm really going to have to get into, because a lot of this isn't this. I mean, we're going to talk a lot about anti-MGTOW. We're going to talk a little bit. I mean, Mike Falleck is the reason why you and I are doing this. But I mean, the base content of what Mike Falleck does is basically twist arguments around and put up a false narrative, and try to do it confident, the same thing that Mooncat did, confident ignorance. But I mean, I think probably one of the reasons why he gave up is, well, for one, I think he just got bored with it. And the other part is that, I mean, even with the shields,
maybe nobody else wanted to continue. Maybe nobody else wanted to continue with the team. It's the same reason why Paulina Pinsky isn't involved with #cult and all the other problematic people.
Oh, I remember listening to Paulina Pinsky in the first episode, and then I went over to her Twitter page. Thick frame glasses, blue-haired, feminist, chubby, overweight, and it was sort of like, she's acting, and in the first video, she's acting like her approval.
Stereotypical feminist.
Yeah, her approval. Oh, by the way, I think she's related to Dr. Drew in some form or fashion. I think she might be Dr. Drew's daughter or something like that. But yeah, she was acting as though her approval is going to somehow make a difference to especially if you're post red pill rage. Is going to make any type of a difference to a guy who's gone MGTOW. But the thing that really stands out with me about Mike Falleck is just his simple unwillingness to address his critics in any form or fashion, which is a very common trait with anti-MGTOW. Here's the other part I've noticed about anti-MGTOW. I've only ever met one anti-MGTOW, two, that seem to have a grasp on what anti-MGTOW or what MGTOW is. The first guy who I know that was anti-MGTOW, when he figured out what MGTOW actually was and what he was up against, he just walked away from it. Like, he stopped doing it. The other guy, I can't remember specifically he's an African American dude. He's got a working knowledge about MGTOW. but he never comes out into the open with it. Like he will hang out in the anti-manosphere, anti-red pill, anti-MGTOW communities, but he will never. I can't remember his name, but he never steps out into the open. So what generally happens is that they last for a while, and then they
collapse.
And then they collapse because almost immediately, right, they start facing really tough and difficult questions, and they can't snark. And this is what Mike Falleck was doing. I mean, you can't snark. Go ahead.
I don't think they can twist arguments about MGTOW forever.
No, they can't. I mean,
eventually, at some point, it will fail.
Yeah. So they or they will resort to snark. And again, right, to quote Rollo Tomasi, when they start resorting to snark, that means they don't have an argument. And that, and I'm noticing with that, I mean, Mooncat did that quite a bit in her I Debunked the Entire Manosphere series. Or they will take stuff out of context to justify. Either way, it's always a house of cards, and it's always the moment it actually starts taking slings and arrows and stones getting thrown at it, it starts to disintegrate, because the base issues of what's causing MGTOW are, they're not, if you're going to deal with MGTOW, and I'm going to say this to the anti-MGTOW that are listening to this, if you want to deal with MGTOW, you have to actually go specifically over to the issues that the men's rights movement is addressing, and you have to start addressing those issues in earnest. Like, make a legit effort to do it. And I'm not seeing any effort on the part of anybody in the mainstream to do any of that. In fact, Dr. Phil recently had Rollo Tomasi on. Tried to proxy in Rollo Tomasi with Andrew Tate on his show, and it didn't work very well because Rollo Tomasi and Andrew Tate have completely different styles. And ultimately, and this is something that I figured out right away about MGTOW, and this is something, and I'm pretty sure that I'll let Igor MGTOW have his comment on this. It becomes really, really obvious very early on that they didn't do their research, or that they were never MGTOW in the first place, because there's 3 or 4 things that all MGTOWs generally have in common, and when they get asked that question, these people, it's really clear that they didn't do their research. Like, for instance, the moment they tried to conflate incel with MGTOW, it just falls apart because of the whole anti-gynocentrism issue. And I'm going to let Igor MGTOW have a run at that as well. So I'm going to turn this over to you for a bit.
When you look at everything #cult produced, you know that these people are outsiders because of how they talk about MGTOW, what their views are, what statements they make. Especially when they try to make a video whose legit title was Dieting Problem. Okay, one part of their title was Dieting Problem in MGTOW Cult. MGTOWs don't even have any diet. I mean, individual MGTOWs do, but we never enforced any collective diet. You instantly know they're wrong.
Wow. Yeah, there is no orthodoxy, and you have to know that about MGTOW in order to in order to understand what MGTOW is. And basically it comes down to what I've noticed. It comes down to 4 basic things. 1, it's anti-gynocentric, which is the rejection of female approval. Now, that can be twisted around to make it look like it's misogynistic, but that basically just means that you're not seeking a female approval. 2, it's highly individualistic. So what Igor MGTOW was just saying about no official diet, no official cult, no official leader, that's true. 3, it's a marriage and cohabitation boycott. And 4, it is highly individualistic. So that those four pillars defeat the whole concept of MGTOW being a cult, because it's sort of like, like it's a cult, but it's so individualistic that like for instance, myself and Igor do not speak for the entirety of the MGTOW community. In fact, I've had people. So yeah, the whole situation with Mike Falleck was, him attempting to spin a narrative, and the longer that narrative got spun, and even though Mike Falleck kept going for a while, I'm having to imagine the people who were working with him were taking, because I know what MGTOW are like. If he's going to do this, it's sort of like, like the women involved were probably taking an unbelief, because MGTOWs have zero qualms about telling women who have negative opinions about MGTOW to go F themselves.
Okay.
So yeah, the whole thing about me personally with Mike Falleck was, and this is something I saw with Mooncat as well, twisting of facts around trying to produce a narrative that doesn't stand up, and then using that narrative and not even having the temerity. That's something I noticed with Bulldog Mindset. At least Bulldog Mindset had the willingness to put his face out there and to stick by what he believed about MGTOW, whereas Mike Falleck never publicly responded to his critics except in a very controlled manner. I saw a couple of videos of his where he responded to his critics, and it was very clear that they cherry-picked the weakest arguments to respond to.
I plan to express an opinion.
Go ahead.
Everyone working for #cult and everybody involved in this are bad faith actors, given that they've intentionally disabled comments and they're trying to fight this, not really a debate, more like one group versus the other group viewpoints in a way that is rigged against MGTOW.
Exactly. So I'm gonna turn the floor over to Igor MGTOW for a bit here. I'm going to have Igor MGTOW, in his own words, describe his personal experience, because I'll be straight up with you. Mike Falleck never responded to me in any form or fashion. Neither did Paulina Pinsky. Neither did any of the other people that were involved in this. And I noticed that they never publicly stepped out into the open to face their critics. Like when they did respond to their critics, they did it inside their group. But yeah, I'm going to let Igor MGTOW describe his experience with #.cult and Mike Falleck, and then we're going to do the conclusion, and we're going to wrap this show up. So Igor, have your say.
So I first saw #cult around late 2020. That was when their video, of course, in late 2020 started. When they started their anti-MGTOW spiel. Of course, they had all their talking points as all the other leftist. Oh, hold on. As all the other anti-MGTOWs, but they tried to look like an official therapeutic anti-cult organization, which totally failed. For a while, I think they had comments on, but they disabled it, as well as likes and dislikes, and then #cult tried to make anti-MGTOW arguments, while all of us were trying to counter it, and I think I forgot about what hashtag cult did after, but when I revisit them, they're totally dead. No new video in over like 2 years. I haven't seen anything that they have done in quite a while. They're like dead, total radio silence. I also tried to pick apart, if I remember correctly, one of the arguments of hashtag cult. So to sum it up, my opinion of hashtag cult is that they're very dishonest, bad faith actors who are trying to push a narrative that clearly isn't true, and they know it isn't true. Otherwise, if they would have accepted it and they would have moved on. But they try to continue pushing it on, and knowing that the narrative is false and there was no real reason. None of the MGTOWs provoked them. We didn't do anything against them, but they attacked first. And now their channel is dead. They have failed, and it's surprising that they failed, considering at the time 2020 was a very conducive year for anti-MGTOWs, in my opinion. YouTube was trying to shut down MGTOW content, MGTOW channels, trying to de-rank us, and all hashtag cult had to do was be a little better and maybe continue. They already had semi-good graphics for these kinds of channels, and they still failed, despite the playing field being in their favor.
Exactly. Yeah.
Imagine that you do everything. You have an environment literally built for you and your group, and you still fail.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. I got again, right, we're kind of getting off topic here, but MGTOW Exposed, for instance, was really, and you probably remember MGTOW Exposed. He died back in 2020, but I mean, he was famous for saying, "I'll debate anybody." But when I actually went and looked at MGTOW Exposed debates, he never debated anybody. He would I think he had one discussion with Mexican MGTOW, and that was it. And I didn't listen to it because it's no longer available. This is the reason why they're going to lose ultimately, and why until society is either going to radically transform or collapse, or they're going to have to address the issues that are causing MGTOW, because this whole thing specifically with Pierre Poilievre and the fact that Justin Trudeau could not say the word MGTOW, because if he had actually used that word publicly, people would have actually gone looking. And Justin Trudeau's already I don't know whether there's supposed to be another election coming up next year, but I don't know whether there is or not. But
I'll check. Canadian presidential elections.
Prime Minister. It's Prime Minister. It's the same British system. We use a Commonwealth system like you do over in Britain. He's supposed to be
I'm actually in Serbia. I'm not from Britain. I never said that I was from Britain.
Oh, I kept thinking you were from Britain. Oh, okay. I kept thinking you were from Britain for whatever reason.
I was from Serbia, which is a Balkan country in the Balkan Peninsula. Hold on, let me grab a map.
Oh, I know where it is. Are you in Sarajevo or some? Oh, well, I guess it really doesn't matter.
I'm in Novi Sad. Sarajevo is in Bosnia.
Okay. I didn't know. I don't know. My geography's not that sharp, but I know it's. Okay. So yeah, the whole situation.
The election in Canada should be on or before 20th October 2025.
Okay, well, he has to call it before then. He's a minority government, so I mean, he might call it. There's rumors floating around he's going to call it soon here. it's a minority government. We run the same type of system as they do in Britain. So he has to call it before then, but he has to. That's the latest that he can stay in power before calling an election. But he can call it any time. Here's the situation, though. Like the more this gets out, the fact that, for instance, I don't know if you know who Dr. Phil is in Serbia. The fact that Dr. Phil felt compelled to do a video on the manosphere, the fact that Andrew Tate had to leave Britain. And again, Tate's not a MGTOW, he's a PUA, but I mean, I'm using Tate to make a point because his history is well documented that he had to leave Britain and go to Romania because effectively what was happening is that he had a false accusation leveled against him in Britain that he was able to deal with, and he realized he wasn't going to be safe in Britain anymore. What is the MGTOW situation in Eastern and in the Balkan states? I keep hearing it's growing there, but I mean, my understanding is that things are it's growing a little bit more slowly there because things tend to be a little bit more traditional. Pardon the term.
From my perspective, there isn't a lot of us MGTOWs in Serbia. I haven't seen a lot of MGTOW people in Serbia, and while I think we are growing, I just haven't seen that many yet, and probably the traditional people dismiss it as being gay. But eventually even they will have to deal with it because you can't just use the wrong words to describe something.
Well, yeah, exactly. So the whole situation that, and you're gonna run into this. I mean, yeah, Mike. And I'm gonna, if I'm allowed to quote that line you put down before, you have zero qualms about debating Mike Falleck at any point, right? Hello? Hello? Hello?
Hold on. Hold on, what's that noise? Hold on. Okay, I'm going to put this in the list of cutoffs because it lasted longer than usual.
Yeah. Okay, so let me just rephrase this because I mean the statement you made before that, in my opinion, Mike Falleck should try to debate me. I'm open to debating him. So you're pretty much open to debating him at any point.
I want to debate Mike Falleck because I want to prove him wrong.
Mm-hmm. So
and I think he has to, and I want him to deal with an actual MGTOW, and I want it to be on a level playing field.
Oh, absolutely. So, Mike, and I know you're going to listen to this, Mike, because I know you listened to the 2 videos that I did about you back when you were doing #.cult. You know, if you're going to pony up, if you're going to make content about MGTOW that just does not hold, that has so little substance to it, and you might claim that it does, but it doesn't, pony the hell up and have a debate with Igor MGTOW. I mean,
or literally any other MGTOW,
or any other MGTOW for that matter. Pony up, have an actual face-to-face discussion, because I mean, your content was so dishonest and so despicable. You know, I mean, MGTOW Exposed used this tack where he would twist the meanings around, or what MGTOW was really good at doing is picking off low-hanging fruit, like fat, unattractive MGTOWs, and using them to project out to the rest of the group. have a head to head with Igor MGTOW or me or somebody, right? Like let's talk, dude. Like let's actually put the stuff that you were claiming about MGTOW up to the test and see if it actually held up. I mean, I get it. You probably moved on, but I know you're going to listen to this thing in its entirety, dude. The offer's out there.
To Mike Falleck, you need to realize that debate with an actual MGTOW on a level playing field is going to be good for you, and you actually need to do it because you can't just keep being in a bubble in a controlled environment and shutting down criticism because you don't like it. If you're going to make content about us and in a negative way and you're going to try to destroy us, you should have to deal with us on an equal playing field.
And that's the thing. This is the reason why I don't think he ever will take it up, because just like every other anti-MGTOW out there, the moment you have to actually face a level, and this is the reason why you're seeing a lot of screaming and yelling about Twitter right now, is because the moment you have to start facing a level playing field, you know, like your lies just don't hold up, and the admins, for instance, over at Twitter don't have your back anymore, right? Like, let's see you step out into the open and face Igor MGTOW or me or any other MGTOW out there head on. Let's see how well your ideas hold up when they actually have to face scrutiny as opposed to hiding behind a wall and flinging shit over. By the way, one last point before I wrap it up, and I will give Igor MGTOW the final word here. I did talk to Peter Nolan about Mike. I did talk to Peter Nolan about your interview with him. Peter Nolan is low-hanging fruit. I am familiar with the reasons why he's no longer associated with the MRM. The fact that you couldn't get
I'll have
something.
to cross-reference everything. I'm trying to wonder whether what interview or whatever I have is still on my channel, or hold on, I wonder if it was on my channel or his.
It might have been on his. You actually sent me the link at one point. Peter Nolan told me specifically that you never published the second half of that interview. Now, I don't know whether you did or not.
Hold on,
yeah.
There was two halves. Hold on, I'll have to cross-reference everything and find out everything historical. Hold on, can't find it on my channel. It's the stream with Peter Nolan is not on my channel, assuming it exists.
Yeah, it's on. It would be on.
Does.
It is. It's on Mike. It's on Mike Falleck's channel. Yeah, he doesn't have. He doesn't have a. He will never step out into the open. On this. But
wait, you were talking about Mike Falleck's interview.
Yeah.
Well, I thought you were talking about my interview with Peter Nolan. I think I made an F up. In that case, there's clear evidence that Peter Nolan did make an interview with Mike Falleck and that Mike Falleck did censor it.
Yeah.
Sorry for confusing everyone. I apologize to everyone for confusing and for thinking it was about me when it was about Mike Falleck.
Yeah. There's really not a whole lot to be discussed about this. Mike Falleck, you're a coward. You're a dishonest liar. You thought you found a group that you could bully. And when you found out that they weren't a group that, and this is the same thing that happened with Bulldog Mindset. You found out that they weren't a group that could be easily pushed around, which is something that a lot of quote unquote alpha guys in tradcons or whatever start finding out when they start wandering into the MGTOW community and start dropping insults and whatever, they quickly find out that MGTOW is a community that can and will hit back. And you tried to run with it as much as best you could, but I mean, again, ultimately, because you chose to be a coward and hide behind a wall and not address any of your critics except under the most controlled of circumstances, your channel never lasted. And I mean, I saw stuff when I was watching your content where it was very clear that you didn't do the research that you claimed you had, because you make some very broad sweeping assumptions about MGTOW that don't hold up under under scrutiny. Anyway, I'm pretty much done. There's not really all that much to be said about this guy. He's not doing it anymore. We've been trying to get this particular video out of the way for, about a year and a half now, and we finally got it in.
Yes.
Thank you.
We've said enough. This was a successful recording and a successful revisiting of #cult and why it failed.
Exactly. Anyway, I want to thank Igor MGTOW for taking time out of his day to come on. Yeah, I don't really feel like giving Mike Falleck any more credit than what he's already tried to make for himself. I don't really have anything more to say. Do you have anything more to say, Igor? I'll give you the last word on this.
That's a bit worrying.
Okay. All right. So thank you very much, Igor, for coming on. I will hopefully, man, maybe we'll talk again in the future, and it won't be about Mike Falleck. It'll be about MGTOW in general. For those of you who don't know,
topics.
Yep. And for those of you who don't know, I am at Patreon as the Red Pill Nation. I am at Subscribe Stars to Roki 5. Still on YouTube, although I don't promote the channel, but I am on YouTube. YouTube, Odyssey, Rumble, BitChute, Brighteon, MGTOW TV, Facebook, MeWe, Minds, Gab, Parlor, Getter, Rumble, goingyourownway.com, Happy Bachelor, Poll, communities.win. I'm in a lot of different places. Come check me out. Igor, thank you very much for coming on tonight, and hopefully we'll have something done. We'll do something in the future, but have a good day and Merry Christmas.
I appreciate being able to talk here about Mike Falleck and all his failings and my opinions on him, and also Merry Christmas to you, Naroki 5.
Yes, thank you very much. All right, thanks. All right, I'm going to stop.